Today we're here with my bestie Vicki, and we are making homemade cream corn. It's yummy, and it's a good way to keep the old man out. Comfort food.
Okay.
You buy it in the shuck, and Vicki's already shucked the corn and washed it.
Step 2, you take each kernel of corn, you cut about halfway through the kernel, and sometimes you might cut again if you want to. And that's usually I cut twice.
Oh, so you don't get the, whatever you call that? The stuff you don't eat?
Yeah. And then what you do is you scrape, because what you want is you want to get all of the milk out of the corn. And that becomes part of your cream for creaming, cooking your corn.
So these are raw, right?
Oh yeah, they're raw. Mm-hmm. So what we're doing is we're continuing to cut our corn off, and this is what you get. It gets some larger kernels, then it gets some of the mushy kernels, and then you want your corn milk too, because that helps add flavor and creaminess to your corn.
So how many corns today?
We've got 11 ears of corn that we're using, and I usually say that 1 ear of corn would be a generous serving. So we'll say we're making 11 servings, but it kind of just depends on how much somebody's eating.
Okay.
All right, so here's our 11 ears of corn, and we've got the kernels and the milk. And so then we're going to go to our next step. We need to make what they call a slurry, which is some flour, some sugar, some salt mixed with milk. And the way I do it, I put it in here and I use my little whisk to mix it up. But then to be sure it's really mixed, what I will do is I'll shake all that up.
Okay.
So, and the thing that when you're making your slurry, we're following a recipe, but when your granny made cream corn, she did not usually worry too much about her recipe.
Yeah.
So you can be as precise as you want to be. I'm usually somewhat precise just so I don't end up with more stuff than I need. I'm using 2 tablespoons of flour, and let's see, I'm using 1 tablespoon of sugar. Flour out. And I usually the recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of sugar, but I usually start with just 1, because if your corn is really sweet, then that you don't need a lot of sugar. But if you're, like in the fall, if I'm making it from corn I get at the grocery store, then it may need that 2nd teaspoon. It's all to your taste. And then it calls for a teaspoon of salt. And like I said, I usually stir that up a little bit. And then I'm going to need I'm starting with a half a cup of milk. So we'll start with 4 ounces. Well, that went to 5, but that's okay. Because a lot of times you'll use, it just depends. The recipe calls for half a cup of milk and half a cup of cream that you put in at the end, but I never use that. You can, but I usually don't. So usually I go up to about a whole cup by the time I'm finished. But anyway, so I just shake it up to make sure that everything is mixed together, and we will add this in a few. Okay, so we're ready to cook our corn now. It doesn't really take long. You use 6 tablespoons of butter, and then you melt that in the pan. I usually start it on medium high and then turn it down to medium.
This one.
Get our butter melted, and then we'll pour our corn in. And I usually let my corn cook for a few minutes, usually maybe 4 minutes, maybe not as long. Just depends. I kind of judge by how it's looking and whether or not I'm starting to smell the corn. But then you add your slurry to it. And the recipe that I use actually calls for you to add it all together, and then turn it to low and cover it. But that scares me, so I usually leave it uncovered, and I keep stirring it the whole time so it won't stick or start to burn. But everybody has their own way of doing it. Alright. So when it gets about like this, that's usually when I go ahead and add my corn. Because I'm just going to cook it just long enough to get the cooking process started, and to heat up my corn before I add my slurry. Our corn usually has, when you bite into it, it has just a little crunch to it. But if we cooked it longer, it wouldn't have that. But that's just the way we've always done it. It's not really a crunch so much as has a little bite. You can feel the bite. But yeah, okay, so I'm going to cook this for a couple of minutes. Okay, so we've had our corn in here for about 3 or 4 minutes. And the corn's gotten warm, and we're going to add our slurry now. And you just sort of slowly stir in your slurry mix, and your slurry was your flour and your salt and your sugar and your milk. And that's what thickens it up a little to make it more of a cream consistency. And that mixes with your milk from your corn, and that also causes it to thicken a little bit more too. So we're going to let this cook for another about 5 minutes, and I usually just stand here for 5 minutes and stir.
So you want it boiling some?
Well, I'm going to turn it down at this point to about medium instead of being on high. When it first starts, I'm letting it boil a little, but I keep it just sort of like this instead of popping up. I keep it just simmering because you're cooking your corn. But corn really does not take long at all. And if you could smell it, we're starting to smell the smell of the corn. And so that tells you it's cooked. I've been cooking our corn for about 5 more minutes or so. I added just a little more butter, and we tasted it and thought it needed to cook just a little bit longer. And so Shireen's going to taste it now, if you think it needs something. Or if you want it a little looser, I can add some more milk.
Perfection.
Fantastic.
Comfort food. Oh my gosh.
So Dominic, we know you want to keep the old man out, but the old man has to eat.
Comfort food to keep the old man out.
That's it.
All right, I'm ready.
All right.